What's up, everybody? Welcome into an NFL Scouting Combine edition of Inside the Charge. I'm Maddy Glab, and I'm so excited to be joined by NFL Analytics data expert Cynthia Frelund. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah,
You're so
anytime.
busy this week, so I appreciate the
Everyone's
time.
busy this week. You're busy. We're all crazy this week.
Yeah.
That's the combine's like, how much can you possibly fit into this many days?
Yeah.
That's what the combine is.
What is your favorite part about the Combine?
That's what it is. Seeing everyone, you just walk down the hall and you're like, oh, there's Joe Brady.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there's Brandon Beat. Like you don't even have to necessarily even plan it. You just walk and see people right away. It's fun.
How many Combines have you been to? Are you keeping track?
I am. I gotta stop though because
Do
I'm
it.
starting to
What's
make
the
me feel
number?
old.
What's the number?
This is 12.
12.
I'm getting
You're in
old.
double digits.
That's wild. That's wild.
Does it feel like the same thing every year, or do the new coaches, new GMs, new scouting departments kind of keep it new?
I mean,
Prospects
this
as well?
year feels a little different because a couple of things happening at once. 10 new coaches is a lot.
Yep.
There's also, it's kind of this weird mix of like NIL plus the transfer portal plus 10 new coaches. So you have like a lot of different new philosophies in different places. There's some for the Bills. We'll get into that. But also, I don't know what to make. Like, some scouts say it's a good thing that the players have moved around to different teams so you can see how they behave with money. You can see how they behave in new circumstances. You get more touch points on them. Some scouts are like, I don't know, the playbook's this thin. I don't know what they've exactly done. So that's what feels different about the rest of it's the same.
Yeah.
But that's what feels different about this combine is kind of the way everything's sort of situated a little bit differently.
What's the most important thing you get out of the Combine every year?
Who believes in what? Like if you're telling me philosophies, then you can see who can actually fulfill what they say they're going to do, right? It doesn't always work out that it's that easy. Of course, everyone has a philosophy, but you already have a team, and you're not starting a team from scratch with unlimited picks in any player. So I think the thing I mostly like to get out of it is some of these changes, you're not the only team that has a new defense, right? I want to know what they really mean by that, because who plays base front anymore? I mean,
that's so true. We've talked about that here this week quite a bit.
Right. So what does it mean to you to switch that? Like, it can mean a lot of things, but who plays base defense anymore?
Yeah.
I'll wait.
It's multiple. It's very multiple. That's what Jim Leonard, our new defense coordinator, has said. We want to be multiple. Yes, we're going to be a 3-4 base, switching from a 4-3, but we want to be a defense that has players. We've heard positionless players thrown out a lot. Brandon Bean mentioned it this week. That is what they're looking for in free agency and out of this draft. As you think about Buffalo's defense and how it has existed as a 4-3 and shifting to a 3-4, what does a 3-4 defense allow you to do?
To me, a lot of these guys, so if you look at like the difference, I was trying to remember the exact number, but we don't just track with next gen stats like what happens when the players are on the field. It tracks people running onto and off of the field. So if you look at what's been going on in the past 5 seasons specifically, probably even more, but we just looked at 5, it was like the number of miles that these defensive front guys are running, switching on and off the field to kind of get the best and most advantageous matchups against whatever offense they're looking at. They're running like way more than ever before. It's like a 65% increase. Don't quote me on that number, but it's more than 50%, less than 70%, somewhere in between there, right? So when you're switching from 4-3 to 3-4, it just changes some of the principles as to who's supposed to do what. And perhaps what the strategy is there is that just like you're seeing from, let's just use Seattle because they played the longest, well, one of the 2 teams that played the longest this season. You had Nicky Manwari, who's like claims to be an S. It says a little S for safety next to his name, but he didn't play very many snaps at true safety. He played like nickel and off-ball linebacker, like all the other positions as well. So the point is to get people closest to the position that coach wants them to be in. So who cares what the base is? It's just more, these are the assets on the field so that when we're changing the way that front looks, every single snap, every single play, we get the right people in there to stop the things we're looking to stop.
Right. The reason why Buffalo has switched schemes on defense is because they've hired new head coach Joe Brady.
Yep.
Been in the building, quarterbacks coach to offensive coordinator, so he's quite familiar with Josh Allen and the entire offense. We guess it's going to be similar in ways, but of course different in other ways. How does Joe Brady fit what Buffalo has going on and getting over that hump?
Well, familiarity is huge, right? So obviously they know each other very well. And it's my understanding Josh Allen was in the head coaching interviews. I would imagine his input was very important to the entire organization as to how they move forward, especially with, look, like you have to take into account a new stadium. You got to make Bills fans so happy, obviously, but it's going to be fun. But you're opening a new stadium. That doesn't happen very often, if at all, for some teams, right? So kind of taking all those into consideration, who best to structure what we've already got, have familiarity with who's on the team, but have the right vision for, throwing the ball more. I don't know. Doing some things, you're probably going to see a lot more pass attempts.
Yeah.
They may not be deep pass attempts, but I think they're going to see more.
Well, you mentioned
attempts.
more pass attempts, and a lot of people like to go back in Joe Brady's career and look to the LSU team that he coached.
That's the
for.
one.
And
there's some pretty good players on that team.
Joe Burrow,
Heard
Justin
of him?
Jefferson,
Heard of him?
Jamar Chase.
Heard of him?
And love to think, okay, if that's what happened there, then this is what's going to happen to the 2026 iteration of the Bills.
Well, I don't know if you're a fantasy football player, I think you just mean like James Cook is going to have a lot of pass receptions. And I think whoever ends up being the pass catchers will probably know by October who they're. But think about it. What he had on the same freaking team, Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson.
It's wild.
Jamar Chase. That's
Broke a
crazy.
ton of records.
That's crazy. Both of those guys are two of the very top of the entire league. So, I mean, but you have to remember he had those assets at his disposal. Obviously, Joe Burrow was a big deal, but we got Josh. We're good.
The Bills have won 6 straight playoff games. They usher in a new era with Joe Brady, a new culture, a new mindset, some new energy in the building. What does Buffalo need to do this offseason? What's at the top of Cynthia Frelund's list as she thinks about the Bills?
I think the way that the Bills need to handle being in a very tough conference with great quarterbacks. I know this year was kind of weird with like who didn't make the playoffs, but handling that, like, how is this new defense going to operate? Because that defense is, when I think Bills, I think defense. I think defensive front. I think mowing down quarterbacks. And I think starting with figuring out how this new defense works is a really big deal. And then, of course, giving Josh Allen the reinforcements that he needs. But between Josh James and the O-line, like, that's not a bad place to start. Like, when I'm looking at that, it's like, okay, well, let's just stretch the field a little bit. But that's more of, to me, a nice to have, like, figure out the defensive front first, exactly what you want to do and exactly who can do it. Back it up with the right pieces and move forward.
Okay, stretching the field. Let's get into this 2026 draft class. When you think about the draft class as a whole, what comes to mind?
It's a deep wide receiver class, which is good, that's probably something we're going to be saying for like the next 10 years, because part of the other thing with the NIL stuff is like these wide receivers, they get paid more, and thus, so it's kind of inspiring more people that maybe would have been a tight end or something else to be a wide receiver, because think about money, incentives, all those things. So this is a deep wide receiver class. It was the fastest linebacker class.
They were blazing
yesterday. In combine history. Fastest in combine history. 4.55 was the average 40 time.
Whew.
That's crazy.
Athletic.
Second fastest defensive line class in combine history. That's pretty crazy as well. And some of the guys didn't even run. So, there's that. But I think it's, you talk about those positionless players, and I think that's the way college is moving a little bit more, because, Sonny Styles, who just absolutely had a just crazy combine, he was a safety turned linebacker. He could play a positionless middle monster. I don't know. We need a new name for it. But a positionless player in the middle.
He's tall and big.
He's 6'4", and he jumped 43 and a half inches and a 10'2" broad with a
4.46.
4.46, because I know it was 4.47 unofficial, 4.46 official. So, I mean, the point is they're all getting bigger and faster and stronger. You just need to know how you want to use them.
Speaking of wide receiver.
Yep.
Who is a wide receiver that fits what Buffalo needs?
Who did I mock?
You spoke about separation.
Listen, who did I mock to the team?
You mocked Denzel Boston out of Washington.
Apparently, I am that's everyone. I don't like being basic, and apparently, I have become basic.
A lot of people have mocked him.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I want to be weird, but I don't know.
Okay,
but
so
no.
if that's your basic, basic answer, why?
Tall, red zone production, separation can come down with contested catches.
Okay, do you have a non-basic answer?
Well, now that I'm watching some of these players, who you won't get because you're not drafting high enough, but who I would love to give you, Caleb Downs.
Ooh.
He's my favorite player in the draft.
Best safety in the class.
But also, like, he's a beast. And he's just like very, very. Watch his film. He doesn't get tired. He's. I don't know. I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan. I wish I could. I mean, I feel like Bills fans know a thing or two about having great safety play, and they would love this. Again,
I know,
he's
they're
another one
searching
that,
for it.
Safety. You know, he's not a safety. He's a safety.
Who are some other players that you've fallen in love with as you've started to watch a lot more tape? They don't have to be available around number 26, but who are some guys that you've been like, wow, okay, these are going to be difference makers at the next level?
I love Carnell Tate, too. I would love to give him to the Bills. He won't last that long. He's a wide receiver out of Ohio State. The guy is such a crisp route runner, so reliable in places that's another way to create separation. I don't expect him to run the fastest 40 here. I think it's going to be a fast, but there's some guy here who's claiming he ran a 4.17.
What?
I don't know. His agent said that. I feel like maybe don't say that.
That's
just like
crazy.
Let the number speak for itself, right?
Yeah, but don't put that out there and then go run like a 4.
No, like a 4.44, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, that's a little different. But no, but ultimately, I think that I think that there's going to be a number of good options at 26. But those are kind of obviously, I liked Arvell Reese's workout a lot yesterday too. He's not going to be available either. You know, like I feel bad talking about these things.
Yeah, you watch some of these guys work out, and then you think before they work out, it's like maybe their range is this, and then they do their workout, and it's like they're gone.
Nope.
See you later.
Yeah,
never going to happen.
I thought maybe Cassius Howell would play. Maybe he'll fall because there's a perception.
We were talking about his arms yesterday on the show and how they're shorter. What's your take? Are you short arms aren't going to work? Are you like stop talking about the short arms? Doesn't matter.
It's by how much. If he were 6, let's just use a 6 foot tall human being, right? If you're a 6 foot tall human being and you have like a 34-inch weight, people want these like big numbers, right? If your arms were 24 inches, that would be an issue.
We measured, and mine are 21.8.
But how tall are you?
I'm 5 feet.
Okay, if you were another foot taller and your arms were still that length, then you might tip over when you're in a 3-point stance.
Chris Brown next to us, he had a decent
32?
31. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. I have like a freakish arm length. I have
have you measured yours?
I have. I'm 5'6" and mine are like 27 or something crazy. Like my wingspan is longer than my height. Wow. You're supposed to be about the same as your height. So
mine was about the same.
And that's normal.
Yeah.
So how far? And then like Kawhi Leonard, like historically has like 7-inch longer wingspan than his height, which is ridiculous. But okay, well, you have it right here.
Yep.
He's 6'2.5", right?
6'2.5", 253 pounds.
And his arms are
length,
30 and a quarter.
30 and a quarter.
Okay, so 30 and a quarter plus 30 and a quarter would be 60 and a half, yes? So then you've got the size of his chest, which isn't nothing.
Yeah.
But 60 and a half is 5 feet, right? So his chest is at least 12 inches. I mean, your chest is way bigger than 24 inches.
Yep.
He's fine. He's not going to tip over. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like, relax. This guy's motor is great, and the fatigue factor on him from his actual film, his Texas A&M film, it's great. He doesn't get tired in the fourth quarter. He doesn't lose speed. His change. So I don't care. If it was severely out of range, then we can talk about it.
Brandon Bean jokes about the fact that, we're sitting at 26. We've been sitting around this range for the last several years. Like fingers.
That's like a humble brag.
Yeah, humble brag.
Humble brag. We're picking at the end of the draft. Humble brag. Yeah.
But fingers crossed, like somebody's arm length is not what they think it will be,
That's
they run a slower 40 and they drop to the Bills.
That's right.
Like make it happen.
Cassius Howell could have done that with his tiny arms. They're not tiny. And by the way, if you look at his body, he has a long torso. So oftentimes people with long, like think about your proportions. You can run faster. Your center of gravity is actually lower, so it could be better. So we need to relax with this.
Okay,
it only matters if it's like if somebody had your arm length.
and they were 6'2.5".
Then we could talk about
Their arms would be like not even at their hips.
Then we could talk about it.
That would be very interesting. Then we could talk about it. Okay.
Right. But if it's like not, and also think about some of these guys, it's like an eighth of an inch different. Like think about how often they work out, and think about when you work out. Like my shoulders can get tight. Like I lift my shoulders up like this way too often.
Same.
My posture. So just think about it. If you were able to
really.
Plus it's like dry here and it's
These
cold.
guys are stressed.
It's cold cold. I mean, warm weather guys who come to the cold.
Yeah.
It's not warm here.
100%.
Not all of us can keep our hardy buffalo stock. I live in Southern California now. My Midwestern vibes are low. I wear long underwear on the field at the combine. I'm not kidding. It's that cold.
You bring your snowshoes to Indy even though there's no snow?
I wear, but indoors where they're working out.
It is colder in there.
I wear long underwear because I have to be there the whole time too, and I shiver with long underwear on. Now, that means I am weak, but it also gives you a sense that it's not that warm in there.
What combine drill are you most obsessed with?
I like anything with a ball on the stick because I just think it's funny. But none of them really matter. I mean, as long as you don't fall out of range like significantly. I will say it was pretty cool. I was very close to Sonny Styles when he jumped that 43 and a half. And it was cool to see the other guys cheering him on, which is like my favorite part is when they like cheer for each other.
That's awesome.
So that was really cool.
Want to go back to wide receiver before we wrap up here. You said Buffalo could use some separation on offense, and a lot of people love to talk about speed and what speed could do to an offense or a defense and having that a part of the roster. Is there a speedy wide receiver who can really separate that maybe you could find first, second round?
Let's wait till they run their 40s before I say who's like super, super speedy or not. I'm looking at these guys in this draft, and I think all of them are fast enough. I don't really care about incremental speed. It doesn't usually pay off, right?
Okay.
The 4.2 guys doesn't really always translate.
Do analytics tell you that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Because remember, you have to wear pads when you play football, and you're never running a straight line. If you were to run straight line untouched, you could score a touchdown too. I'm saying you. Straight line untouched.
Put me in, coach.
Exactly. Right? But no one's untouched. No one's running a straight line. And no one, like, that's just not how it works. Puka Nacua is the best example of that. He ran a very slow 40. And wouldn't you say he's one of the best
that guy
receivers
can,
in the league?
can move.
So you got to know about what you're expecting to do. He can also block, like, very well. So, I don't know. All of those things matter put together.
As analytics relate to the scouting combine and the process over the next couple months of these guys getting ready to be drafted, what's the craziest tie from analytics to the combine, or as you're kind of diving into these players that you think doesn't get talked about enough that's really important?
I love the O-linemen, and I love watching their feet. This is not really something for Buffalo because you guys are great with that. But ultimately, watching how low they can keep their hips in the first 10 split of the 40 is something that really does actually translate to on the field not being a waist bender. So you don't want to be a waist bender. You just keep your butt down. Keep your butt down.
Stay low and move fast.
Stay low and move fast.
What do the next 2 months look like for you as we lead up to the NFL draft? What are you up to?
Well, it's a great question. I'm not sure who I work for, but, whatever. But ultimately, I mean, ESPN, NFL Network, we'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out.
We have some shows coming up.
Works.
Path to the Draft will be back on NFL Network
Amazing.
in April. So we'll end of March, beginning of April. So doing that and then be in Pittsburgh.
Love it. We'll make sure we watch you on Path to the Draft. Cynthia, thank you so much for telling us a little bit about this 2026 draft class, your opinion on the new coaching staff. Looking forward to it all starting to come together when free agency begins on March 11th. Can't wait.